Well, it is a beautiful October afternoon out here on the hillside. It's been getting kind of chilly at night and in the mornings, going down into the 30s, so definitely feeling like fall and even winter at times, but I've been loving it. So I've got something to tell you. I've got some good news and bad news. It's concerning the projects I've been working on here, the rabbit hole in particular. So I guess I'll start with the bad news, which is I have decided to stop work on the rabbit hole and maybe even abandon the whole project for a number of reasons. This wasn't an easy decision, and I'm going to get into some of the reasons why I decided to do this. But yeah, I'm filming this on the 18th of October, and it was the 20th of October last year that I got this property, and it wasn't too long after that I started digging up there. So it's been close to a year that I've put into that project, and you'll know if you've been with the channel for a little while. I spent a lot of time and effort and money working on that project. A lot of time thinking and figuring it out, and yeah, it's been about a year that project's been going, and I'll be honest with you, I never felt great about it. I tried to stay optimistic, through the videos, but I never felt great about it. It was pretty clear from the beginning that there were going to be some significant challenges to doing a dugout like that. But what kept me going was you hear about the sunk cost fallacy, where you've put so much into something, you've invested so much time or money or effort or all of those, that even though it's probably not going to work out, you keep going just because you've already put so much into it. And that was certainly what was going on with the rabbit hole. And also, just filming the project, that kept me going too. I wanted to show you the finished result. So that pushed me a lot further than I would have gone if I hadn't been filming it. But yeah, I just sat down one day and was honest with myself about the trajectory of the project and the prospects, the risks, and yeah, it just came to the conclusion that it was time to let it go. So that brings me to all of the problems that I ran into with the project. There were a bunch of them. And there are plenty of great ways to do a dugout, proper ways to do it. My thinking was kind of to do it like a basement, like you'd build a basement, But all that goes into doing something like that, like a proper basement, for one, you need to start with a solid concrete footer, poured concrete footer for the box to sit on. That is the first step. And getting that much water and concrete up the hill, the logistics of that, just wasn't feasible. So that's why, I tried dry stacking the block. That was my last that was my last attempt to salvage the project, was dry stacking the concrete block, hoping that I could do like a retaining wall, you know, to kind of keep the earth in place, and I wanted to save a little money, so that's why I went with the concrete blocks instead of retaining wall blocks. But yeah, that was my last attempt to just try one more thing. And I knew I needed a footer, but instead, you know, I packed rock to make the foundation for the block to sit on. I packed the ground, packed the rock. It was pretty stable, you know. And I got it fairly level. Many tries, you know, to get that foundation layer level. But, you know, without using mortar, the higher I stacked, the more those imperfections would show up. You know, the higher you get. Imperfections in the blocks and imperfections in the leveling of the first layer. And also, because the walls were slanted like a retaining wall, there was a stretching issue. So the higher I stacked the layers, you know, like if you imagine a bowl, you know, the bottom, the circumference is going to be a lot smaller than the top. So as you slant up, it's going to take more, you know, in this case, block to make the room. So I knew the stretching issue was going to be a problem from the beginning, but I thought I could kind of compensate by staggering the blocks a little bit. But while the corners were pretty stable, you know, packing the clay behind them, watering them in, and then filling the block with gravel, that was pretty stable in the corners. But those big sections of wall, you know, 10 or 11 foot long by 7 or 8 feet tall, just dry stacked like that, it was not looking good. Yeah, so to do it right, you'd need that footer, concrete footer. You'd need rebar. You would need mortar. You would need concrete in the blocks. You would need moisture barriers, French drain. You'd just need a lot to do it like a proper kind of basement style. You know, they talk about frost heave, you know, where the earth, anytime you're doing something below ground, you know, the earth, when the moisture gets cold, it expands when it freezes, and so it can push a retaining wall over or push a basement in if it's not, you know, backfilled properly. So yeah, it was just going to be risky. Like I named the last video, this whole thing was just a risky experiment. And I just, at this point, I can't afford to play around with risky experiments right now. I might come back to the rabbit hole one day when I can do it right, but I really just, I really don't have the resources to do it correctly at this point. Now you might be saying, well, there are tons of other ways to do a retaining wall or a dugout. You could use wood, you know, there are tons of ways to do it, but being below ground, you know, there's just tons of problems, tons of things you got to think about. What kind of wood you're using, you know, how you're protecting it from the moisture, how you're protecting it from the bugs. It's just a very expensive endeavor if you want a dugout that's gonna last. You can throw one together pretty fast with logs and with wood, but is it gonna last? That's the question you gotta ask. And so yeah, another issue yeah, the moisture, it always stayed kind of damp in there. The roof did okay as far as keeping water out, but the condensation from the earth would just, it would just stay kind of damp as I was doing it. And if you're going to be living in a space like that, you don't want to be constantly in the damp. It's just not great for your lungs and all that. Mold, could start to grow. So yeah, the roof, that was a whole nother issue that I had not even figured out yet, how I was going to do the roof if the walls worked out at all. So another thing, the trees around there were so many big trees around that spot that any of that could come down at any time, and just take out the whole thing, bust the roof, and maybe even crack the walls. So you got to redo it all. So there were just a lot of factors that went into this decision. And I guess that brings me to the good news. And that is that since I stopped working on the rabbit hole, I've been focusing on other projects. And I haven't filmed any of it. I'm probably not going to film these projects coming up. Because my work schedule has changed, and so I don't have as much free time as I did over the past year. And believe it or not, you'll know if you've done any kind of filming like this, filming projects, but it takes a lot of time out of your day to set up the camera and get the angles and the lighting, and it takes a lot of time away from your work when you're doing that, not even to mention the editing. So yeah, with these current new projects that I'm working on, because I don't have as much time as I used to, I really just need to focus on the work instead of filming it. But I'll definitely show you when I get done. I don't know how long that's gonna take, but I will be back. I will be back to show you what's coming next. And that's the good news. That is the good news. And let me just say, I appreciate you watching all of this time. And with this past year working on the rabbit hole, I apologize that I didn't get to show you a finished project. I know a lot of you might have been watching and waiting for that. But I was talking to a friend recently about this and the channel and the rabbit hole and the decision I was making, and he said something pretty interesting. He said, with a lot of YouTube videos, you don't always see the failures, you see the polished, finished results, or the heavily edited, process, but you don't always see the mistakes. There are some pretty honest channels out there, but there aren't a lot of them usually. And he said, my friend, he said, it might be kind of cool just to take a minute and share that with people, just be honest about it. And, just talk about how in real life, outside of most YouTube videos, there are failures and there are problems and things don't always work out. That's just real life. And so that's what I'm trying to do here, is just be square with you. And yeah, just kind of admit that, as I say all the time, I am no expert. And yeah, this was always an experiment, and sometimes experiments work out really well. I've had some experiments go great, and then sometimes they don't work out. But, you know, this hasn't been a waste. This has not been a waste. I've learned so much over the process of this project. So much about all kinds of things. And also, I've got to spend a lot of time in the rabbit hole on the cold nights, on the rainy days. There at the end, I was camping in there a whole lot, so spent many great nights camping in the rabbit hole. And so yeah, it hasn't been a waste. I've always got more to learn, and this project has really taught me a lot, and I'll know a lot more for the next time I try something like this. But yeah, I do apologize for not being able to show you the finished product, even well, since you've been following along, and I do appreciate it. I really do. It's shocking that so many people have wanted to see this, you know, and I feel bad that I can't deliver on the project, but this is just something I had to do for me. It's just a choice I really needed to make, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I will be back. I will be back to show you, hopefully, some cool projects pretty soon, but I am going to be taking a little break from filming. Yeah, I hope you stick around to see what's coming next. But you know, I don't know if I've ever said this, but I might have mentioned it before, but I can't remember. The why I named this channel You Never Know, back when I started this, you know, back in Alabama with the van, it's because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to be doing van life forever, which I am still doing, still in the van. It's kind of a hybrid van life now that I've got the property, but yeah, still doing that. But yeah, I didn't know what the future was going to hold. And so that's why I named it that. You never know, because you really don't know what's coming next, what you're going to be doing, what's coming down the line, what life's going to throw at you. You never know. And so, yeah, that still holds for sure. But yeah, if you've been here since the first video in Alabama, I sure do appreciate you. We've come a long way. We've seen a lot of interesting stuff, and it's weird to think about, like, a year from now what it's gonna look like. You just don't know. You never know. So yeah, I appreciate you, and some of the newer folks who have come on board recently, I appreciate you too. And hopefully I'll have some neat stuff to show you pretty soon. But until then, I guess I will see you later.